Didn't see you there. My name is Minnesota Jones. I'm an historian / archaeologist, and today we'll be learning about World War II. So join me as we talk about our first major player, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Number 32. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Democrat, 1933 to 1945, 51 years old, from New York.
FDR was really a great president. He did so much during the Great Depression with his New Deal, and even though we did eventually end up going into World War II, I think he really did a great job at keeping America as neutral as he possibly could. Roosevelt, although crippled by polio, was known for his charisma as a politician. When it was time to solve the Great Depression in America, he horrified hardcore Republicans by implementing his New Deal plan, which extended the power of the federal government. Now, with the uprising of Adolf Hitler in Germany, America faced a new dilemma.
The U.S. tried just so hard to stay neutral. We had the Neutrality Acts of 35, 36, and 37, and then the one in 39 where FDR tried to do the cash and carry policy, which was a really, really great idea. And then, of course, we had the Land and Lease Act, which was very, very controversial at the time.
However, neutrality ended for America when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor on December 4th, 1941, who had recently just invaded China and joined the Axis powers of Hitler and Mussolini. Now with the U.S. going headfirst into World War II, FDR started getting friendly with the next Allied power, Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England.
Number 60. Winston Churchill, Conservative, 1940 to 1945, 66 years old, from England. Winston Churchill was a famous British statesman, dedicated to public service. He was an amazing spokesman and soldier in World War I. He advocated for social reform and progressive ideals in England, and worked with FDR to win World War II for the Allied powers.
We shall go to the end! We shall fight in France! We shall fight on the seas and the oceans! We shall defend our island! We shall fight on the beaches! We shall fight on the grounds! We shall fight on the landing fields and the streets! We shall fight in the hills! And we will never surrender! The Atlantic Conferences were meetings between Roosevelt and Churchill, where they discussed this new world war. In these meetings, they talked about the ABC-1 agreement, which meant they would focus on Germany first and not Japan.
The choice to focus on Hitler instead of Japan was probably smart of FDR and Churchill, because they thought that he was a stronger power, but in America, it was pretty controversial, since many Americans wanted revenge on the Japanese because of Pearl Harbor.
With the U.S. finally behind the support of the Allied forces in World War II, America reared its recently unneutralized head towards Germany, led by Führer Adolf Hitler.
Number 1. Adolf Hitler, Socialist, 1934 to 1945, 45 years old, from Germany.
By 1939, Hitler had marched his troops through Czechoslovakia, Austria, Rhineland, and invaded Poland, marking the start of World War II. Hitler had used the depression caused by World War I in Germany to galvanize troops to invading as many parts of Europe as possible, soon invading France in the phony war. By 1941, Hitler had convinced German troops to enter Soviet Russia, controlled by Joseph Stalin. When Stalin gave the German troops a run for their money in September of that same year, Germany was set back economically, geographically, and morally. It's really, really important to understand just how many Russian lives were lost, just trying to keep Germany at bay. And that was really one of the main reasons why Stalin needed a second front from America and Britain. Although Dwight D. Eisenhower did lead an assault on Italy from North Africa, Stalin wanted more. In 1943, a conference was set up between the three great Allied powers, FDR, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin himself. This would be held in Casablanca, French Morocco, and was to be called the Casablanca Conference.
In this conference, Stalin urged a better second front from the Americans and Britain. They also discussed terms for the war, including unconditional surrender, which meant that if and when Hitler and the Japanese surrendered, it would need to be without any terms. After the Allied forces invaded Sicily, Italy, deposed Mussolini, and had Italy surrender unconditionally in 1943, the Great Three Powers met in the Tehran Conference to discuss an Allied attack from the west and a Russian attack from the east.
The Tehran Conference was really the stepping stone to Eisenhower's invasion of Normandy.
This invasion in Normandy, France, also known as D-Day, took place on June 6, 1944, and was the beginning of a long and bloody battle between the Axis and Allied powers. However, by August of 1944, Paris was liberated. Mother! On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler killed himself and his wife, Eva, and on May 7th, the Germans surrendered unconditionally to the Allied forces. On May 8th, America celebrated VE Day, or Victory in Europe. However, unfortunately, FDR would never live to see American victory, since he died on April 12, 1945, in Warm Springs, Georgia. Throughout the war with Germany, the U.S. also sent troops to Japan, mostly led by General Douglas MacArthur, who used the strategy of leapfrogging to hop from island to island to overcome Japanese posts. This strategy would be the deciding factor in the U.S. victory in Japan. As the war in Japan did dwindle down, they were losing a lot of men and ships. But what they didn't know was that the U.S. was working on the Manhattan Project at the time. The Manhattan Project was a program in the United States where they tried to launch the very first atom bomb. These findings significantly influenced the Potsdam Conference, led by the three major Allied forces, where they announced that Japan needed to either surrender or endure ultimate destruction. They did end up surrendering, however it wasn't until the ultimate destruction of two of their major cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where many civilians lost their lives. VJ Day was celebrated on September 2nd, 1945.
Women also saw big changes during World War II. The war opened up around 216,000 non-combat positions that they would fill. The fighting also created many women's organizations, including the WWIIs, the WWIIs, and the OPARs. Around 6 million U.S. women also took part in building equipment for the soldiers, represented by the iconic Rosie the Riveter poster. However, after the war, around 2/3 of those would go back to traditional family roles.
When he plays reveille, he's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A toot, a toot, a toot.
And so this concludes our talk about World War II. I hope you learned a lot, because I certainly have. And so as always, I'm Minnesota Jones. Take care, brush your hair, and I hope to see you back. Thank you. Hello.
We're filming Winston Churchill get ready for his speech. Your ball cap is flapping around.
Edge.
Action.
Minnesota Jones, conclusion, take 6. And so this concludes our talk about ancient Japan.
Action.
Pearl Harbor, take 7.
Action.
Atlantic Conferences, take 2. The Atlantic Conferences were meetings between Roosevelt and Churchill.
Sorry, is this really fun? Action.
Atlantic Conferences, take 3. The Atlantic Conferences were meetings...
I'm still shaking. Okay, hold on. I'm not gonna watch. I'm not.
Winston Churchill, Prime Minister of England.
Cut.
Prepare skin.
Compare skin.
Prepare.
Oh. Why do you have to prepare your skin?
For the bald cap. But I don't think I'm gonna skip that step. Okay. Stretch the bald cap.
Over your ears?
Yep.
History in every century records an act that lives forevermore. We'll recall, as into line we fall, the thing that happened on...
If you feel me cutting your ear, tell me to stop.
Hawaii shore. Let's remember Pearl Harbor as we go to meet the foe. Let's remember Pearl Harbor.
You're gonna be bald?
Winston Churchill is bald, Bella.
Oh. Then put some makeup on your hair.
What do you think I'm gonna do? Makeup on my hair?
Yeah.
Maybe. I was gonna put some hair on my...
On your makeup?
Yeah.
You're gonna put some hair on it?
As we did the
I may have just cut your hair a little
Oh my
bit.
gosh.
Alamo, we will always remember how they died for liberty. Let's remember Pearl Harbor and go on to victory.
No, I can't.
No, this is good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. Try to adjust it so pull that down style. Yeah, so like twist it. Like twist it, pull it.
Oh, okay. Does Elmer's glue work on skin? Let's use tape. That might be fine.
Can the camera see me from here?
Probably not.
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay.
It says use spirit gum and liquid latex and castor sealer and light touch colors, powder and cream makeup and adhesive remover and powder puff and white latex sponge and red stipple sponge and astringent or 99% alcohol solution, founded safety cuticle scissors, makeup pencil, cotton ball, cotton swabs, utility brush. You have one of those things, and it's the bald cap.
Okay.
Let's remember Pearl Harbor as we go to meet the foe. Let's remember.